România și Germania au o legătură economică deosebit de puternică și intenția celor două țări este să o transforme în ceva definitoriu pentru relația dintre ele. Evoluțiile conflictului din Ucraina ne îngrijorează pe toți, mai ales că sancțiunile economice impuse Federației Ruse vor afecta și celelalte economii. Cum ne pregătim de impact? Primim răspunsuri de la ambasadorii Peer Gebauer, reprezentantul Germaniei la București, și Adriana Stănescu, trimisul României la Berlin. Sunt Cristina Cileacu. Începe Pașaport diplomatic. Peer Gebauer, Ambassador of Germany in Bucharest, Adriana Stănescu, Ambassador of Romania in Berlin. Welcome to a special edition of Diplomatic Passport.
Thank you very much, Cristina, for hosting this.
Thank you very much.
Ambassador Gebauer, Europe was united for the majority of sanctions imposed to Russian Federation, but now we are expecting some effects upon our economies as well. What are the worst perspectives from the Germany point of view?
Cristina, you're right. We have set up a package of very severe sanctions against Russia for a very blatant reason. We had seen a shocking attack on an innocent people, in breach of international law, without any excuse, and because of this Russian aggression, it was very necessary for the European Union to take severe measures. And you're right, these sanctions that are now in place and are being implemented do have not only an effect, of course, on Russia, but of course also have repercussions for us in Europe, in Germany. There's a price that we have to pay, but I think given the brutality of the aggression and given the fact that Russia sets itself aside from every rule and any international order, there was no other choice but to take this action.
Ambassador Stănescu, Romania and Germany work very well at the level of both European Union and NATO. What are the expectations when it comes to the effects over the economical ties of both our countries?
Yes, I will continue a bit with the idea which was also mentioned by my colleague, Ambassador Gebauer, the fact that these sanctions will affect our economies all over in Europe. And of course, it is therefore even more impressive the fact that a country which has so many and so strong ties, economic ties with Eastern Europe, and I mean here Germany, undertook on itself to support, to promote and support these strong sanctions against Russia. Of course, it was impossible to make it otherwise. But we see it under the current circumstances that the German-Romanian relationships, which are already very good, and you mentioned that as well, and the partnerships that we are enjoying in economic terms, will give us further possibilities to develop our economic relationship also in these times of crisis. It is a situation in which, as before during the COVID crisis, our countries in the EU are recognizing that dependency on strategic resources, as for instance energy, but also other raw materials, so dependency on countries which are not abiding to the international rules is not in our advantage. So Germany and Romania, and particularly Germany, are working hard to redirect the origin of the resources they use. And of course, in our cooperation within the EU and in the bilateral partnership, we will find ways to go further and have mutual benefit in our economic partnership.
Ambassador Gebauer, when it comes to energy, the European Union doesn't seem so united, and Germany does have a point when it says that it cannot renounce yet the import of Russian gas. Explain why.
Indeed, the question of energy imports from Russia is a very pressing one. Germany, as a number of other European countries as well, in the past has relied to quite an extent on energy imports, gas and oil, coal from Russia. This, of course, is something we have to cut up for the future. And as we speak, we are all on the way forward to decoupling ourselves from energy imports from Russia. It does take some time. So the question at stake here, which is being discussed also in the European format, is whether it's wise to stop energy imports right away. And to be very frank with you, if stopping energy imports from Russia today would lead to the war to stop tomorrow, I think there would be nobody hesitating. I think we will all go forward. The reality is a bit more complex. Even if Germany, even if Europe stopped imports from Russia today, the war would continue for considerable time. And on the other hand, we would see perhaps quite severe consequences for Germany, for Europe in the economic sphere. Consequences that are, not simply to be waved off by saying, well, then of course it might be a bit more cold in our buildings. It's the question whether we remain strong enough to build up our capacity. We have decided, for example, in Germany, to considerably beef up our economic spending, up to 2% of the GDP. We need economic strength to do so. We need economic strength to carry on with our strengthening of the eastern NATO flank. We need economic power to cope with the influx of refugees. So those are all issues that we need to take into consideration. So things are often a bit more complex. But that's the reasoning behind Germany and other Europeans being a bit hesitant to stop energy imports right away, while at the same time acknowledging that it's now the time to start a process of decoupling. Maybe one word, a quick word on the question of unity in the EU that you've touched upon in your question. I think it's always a sign actually of strength if you discuss openly, and that's what we do in Europe. That's what we do in open democracies. Unlike in autocratic systems like Russia. I think in the end, this open debate makes us stronger. There's room for finding compromises, and rest assured we will also find a compromise in this endeavor.
Ambassador Stănescu, one effect that we witness coming from the conflict of Ukraine is the big wave of refugees. Romania is, let's say, one of the first responders to receive these refugees, but most of them usually don't remain in our country. They move forward maybe towards Germany as one of their main destinations. How do you see the politics of European Union when it comes to welcoming migration, refugees, and most of all integrating them into our societies?
Thank you very much for this question. It's true. This unspeakable war caused a lot of suffering for millions of people. And as we speak now, there is consideration that 3-4 million or probably even more Ukrainian citizens or people living in Ukraine will flee this country, which is an enormous pressure for countries neighboring Ukraine, as Romania is, but also for the EU as a whole. We have been seeing in the recent days, so since the beginning of the crisis, something like around 500,000 refugees coming to Romania, or even more than that. And at the moment, Germany already received more than 200,000, particularly in the southern landers, as it happens, but also spreading to other lands. And they come in large numbers to Berlin, and then they are distributed to other areas in Germany. This is a phenomenon which already confronted us in the EU, the phenomena of receiving and helping refugees in the recent years. So there is a lot of experience which was already acquired at the level of the EU in Brussels, but also in the capitals of the EU member states. Of course, we do have established good coordination mechanisms, particularly on crisis management in the EU, and this helps us a lot. There is not everyone is satisfied, I should say. You always see also in the media and in different political speeches, you always see that people want more, that people want a better management of this situation. But from my own observation, I would say that there is a lot of willingness to support these people. We also seen a lot of measures in Romania, and I can assure you that similar measures are taken also in Germany. I also have discussions with local political responsible ministers, I would say, from lenders, who are also offering support to Romania. There is a lot of volunteering spirit all over Germany, as it is in Romania. So we do act together in a similar way. And I think this European spirit is, by all means, in all of its details, is very visible as we confront this problem. And I'm sure, even if we go further and we expect a large number coming, we will have, through the discussions in Brussels, we will find ways to support all these people. Also, there are discussions about this distribution of refugees between the European countries. This will go on, and Romania, I'm sure, will act in solidarity as we did before.
Ukrainians are entering into European Union, but what about Ukraine? Because they, of course, want to become a member of our communitary bloc. What is Germany's view on this matter? Because it's again a gap between the Western countries and the Eastern countries in this matter.
I think we have pretty much agreed on the way forward in the last European Council meeting in Versailles, where Germany and all the other member states of the European Union, of course, agreed that Ukraine is part of the European family, that we all acknowledge the European aspirations and the European choice that Ukraine is making. And therefore, the Commission has been mandated to hand in an opinion on how to best proceed with this accession process. It would be easy, of course, to simply sign a paper and saying this or that country is now part of the EU. It wouldn't do any difference. The point is, becoming a member, of course, requires some legal procedures. We are a union based on a framework of treaties, and I think we've now set the course in the framework that I've just outlined. So again, there is no weakness in starting with different perceptions. There is only a strength in bringing this together to a formula that everybody could agree on. And I think this is what the European Union right now is showing to the fullest.
Ambassador Stănescu, we see the Eastern countries are pushing more towards the quicker accession of Ukraine to the European bloc. But how will this help Ukraine in this very moment where is still ongoing war in Ukraine?
It is a matter of communicating the willingness to be together. The Ukrainians had shown to us in the recent days and also before, but particularly during this war, that they think in a European way, that they belong to us. They fight for European values and for the European unity. And they do deserve our political and moral support. Of course, this comes for a Romanian very easy, because we were always openly supporting the European perspective for Ukraine, Republic of Moldova and Georgia. They do belong to the European family in our view, and there is nothing changed in this respect. I will only mention the fact that at the Sibiu summit in 2019, when we had the EU presidency, the European perspective for all European states was mentioned in the declaration of the European heads of state and government. So this is part of our normality, I would say. But apart from this political disposition and willingness to give a very strong signal to the Ukrainians, the signal that we are willing and open to have them joining us in our family, and this signal was already given in Versailles. So apart from that, of course, it comes the technical negotiation process, which is led by the Commission and by the European Commission. And of course, this is not an easy step. It doesn't come overnight. It is a very complex institutional process which has to ensure that Ukraine can operate in our institutional procedures as we all do within the EU. And also in this process, I'm sure that Romania and Germany, as we did before, we will be strong and feasible, reliable supporters for Ukraine as well as for the Republic of Moldova and Georgia for making this aspiration real.
Ambassador Gebauer, the conflict in Ukraine led as well to some shifting when it comes to our economies, not only because of the sanctions imposed on the Russian Federation, but also because of this very complicated matter represented by China. How is the view of Germany when it comes to this relation of European Union and China, a major player in both economy and the current situation?
China has an ever-increasing role in the international arena, and as the EU, even way before the crisis, of course, we adjusted our policy approach, establishing this strategy of saying in certain areas it's a partner for us when it comes to tackling climate change, for example. In many other fields, it's a competitor in the business arena. And of course, it's more than that. It's also a systemic rival when it comes to promoting values and political systems. So these three terms describe very well, I think, the complexity that we face. Now with the Russia crisis, this brutal war of Putin against the Ukrainian people, the role of China is on the table as well. What we have seen so far is that China is a bit hesitant to very vocally put itself on the side of Russia. We had the United Nations General Assembly vote recently where 141 nations condemned the Russian aggression, and only 4 others plus Russia sort of defended Russia, and China was amongst those who had abstained. So this showed some distance. On the other hand, China does not at this stage give the impression that it would be ready to solve the crisis for us. It might be a bit too far away for them, or it might not fit their policy approach. Anyways, we should be not naive in feeling or thinking that China would solve it. I think it's on our doorstep, and we should do anything to work towards a solution of this crisis.
Ambassador Stănescu, another issue that had to be solved between our two countries, Romania and Germany, is the issue of the workers, the less educated workers that had some problems when it comes to their rights in Germany. How is this situation now? And I have to ask you both, how often do you talk with each other in order to solve some punctual matters?
There is a plan of action which was established for 2020-2022, and now there is work to renew and deepen this partnership on the basis of the plan of action. And of course, there is also a continuous effort to inform the Romanian workers coming to Germany of their rights, because it is important for them to act first. You do not know what's happening on the fields in the agriculture if they don't ask support. And we do have means to support them. We, Romania, also through the embassy, but also the German state put a lot of instruments at our disposal. I wouldn't say that everything is perfect. There still are concrete topics which require our attention. But what we do have, it's a very good framework. We have good institutional support, and we do have dedicated partners willing to help us with each case. And what is more important, and I repeat this, is that Romanian workers coming to Germany, and there are tens of thousands coming to Germany every year, they need to know what their rights and obligations are, and they need to call us when they have a need for support.
And about the questions, how often do you talk with each other?
It's really no secret that we very closely liaise and exchange, calling each other, texting each other on a number of issues. And it's a wonderful and very fruitful cooperation that we are enjoying, for which I'm very grateful. And it's, I think, an excellent example for how good the relations between our two countries are. Let me just raise at this stage, the fact that we do celebrate the 30th anniversary of our Romanian-German friendship treaty this year, signed after the fall of the Berlin Wall, fall of communism in 1992. And these 30 years in the past have been, I would say, a tremendous success. Romania accessing the EU, becoming a NATO member, and our relationship moving even closer together. And it's not, an end point right now. It's really a starting point for further endeavors in the future when it comes to increasing our, for example, security policy cooperation, when it comes to even further intensifying our economic exchange in the field of the necessary green transition towards a more sustainable industry and economy. And of course, all the cultural relations that bind and connect us are there to be fostered in the future. So this is the course is set for the future, and it's truly a privilege to work here in Romania and to work with Adriana in Berlin.
Well, thank you both for this special edition of Diplomatic Passport. First Berlin this time, Mrs. Adriana Stănescu, our ambassador in Berlin, Peer Gebauer, ambassador of Germany in Bucharest. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.